The capture. The crystalline spires of New Aurora glittered beneath twin moons, their pristine beauty masking the corruption that Commander Elias Kane had spent decades fighting. From his vantage point atop the abandoned hab tower, he watched as Arcturus Empire shuttles descended through the night sky like falling stars, each one carrying troops to reinforce the garrison below. They were preparing for something big. Kane's enhanced vision picked out details no human could see. The micro-fractures in the ship's armor plating, the slight asymmetry in their descent patterns, the thermal signatures of their engines running hotter than normal. The Empire was rushing, making mistakes. Perfect. Sir, Lieutenant Chen's voice crackled through his neural implant. Imperial forces are mobilizing across all sectors. Whatever intel you leaked, they took the bait. Hard. Kane allowed himself a thin smile. After 3 centuries of existence, patience had become both his greatest weapon and heaviest burden. Maintain observation. No engagement unless absolutely necessary. Understood, sir. But, Chen hesitated. The Resistance leadership is questioning your plan. Letting yourself be captured is exactly what we need. Kane finished. The Empire's Nexus prison holds secrets we can't access any other way. Sometimes the best path forward is through the front door. He didn't mention that those secrets could mean the difference between survival and extinction for both humanity and his own kind. The Arcturus Empire had uncovered something in the ruins of Proxima B. Something that made their archaeologists burn their own research and take their own lives rather than let it fall into Imperial hands. Something that made his ancient blood run cold. Kane checked his chronometer. 20 minutes until the trap would spring. He ran through his mental checklist one final time. The false identity was perfect. Resistance commander, decorated soldier, but ultimately human. His neural implants were top tier, but purposefully detectable. The classified data in his secured memory banks was compelling enough to ensure he'd be sent to Nexus rather than a standard detention facility. Everything was in place. He felt the hunger stirring, a constant companion after so many centuries. Kane had fed well before this mission, but sustaining his facade of humanity meant strictly rationing his blood consumption. The Empire's bioscanners were good, not good enough to detect his true nature, but good enough to notice if he fed too recently. The first explosion lit up the night sky right on schedule. Kane watched dispassionately as chaos erupted across New Aurora's government district. The resistance cells were executing their parts perfectly, drawing Imperial forces into carefully planned killing zones while making it appear as though their real target was the planetary defense grid. Multiple strike teams converging on your position, Chen reported. They know you're here. Kane stood, deliberately letting his silhouette become visible against the moons. Good. Tell our people to begin withdrawal. No unnecessary casualties. It's been an honor, sir, Chen said quietly. Whatever you find in there, make it worth it. It will be. Kane severed the connection and destroyed his neural link. The whine of approaching gunships filled the air. Time to play his part. The first shots came from behind. Stun blasts designed to incapacitate rather than kill. Kane let them hit, stumbling forward as though dazed. More Imperial troops rappelled onto the roof, their powered armor gleaming. He made a show of reaching for his sidearm before another barrage of stun fire brought him to his knees. Commander Kane, a synthesized voice declared as an officer stepped forward. You've led us on quite a chase. To think we find the infamous ghost of New Aurora mere blocks from Imperial command. Kane looked up, swaying slightly. Captain Arxis, your reputation precedes you. He allowed his voice to carry just the right mix of defiance and fatigue. Though I expected someone taller. The Arcturian captain's facial tentacles twitched in annoyance. Your attempt to breach our defenses has failed. Your resistance cells are being rounded up as we speak. And you will tell us everything you know about the artifact. Kane's head snapped up, genuine surprise breaking through his careful mask for just a moment. They knew about the artifact already. This was an unexpected complication, or perhaps an opportunity. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, letting uncertainty creep into his tone. Let them think they'd accidentally revealed something he wasn't supposed to know. "Take him," Arxis commanded. "Maximum security protocols. This one's going straight to Nexus." As Imperial troops secured him with neural dampeners and gravitational restraints, Kane allowed himself to feel a flutter of triumph. Phase 1 was complete, but as the transport ship rose into the night sky, he couldn't shake a nagging concern. The Empire's interest in the artifact complicated things. 3 centuries of carefully laid plans might need to be accelerated. The hunger stirred again as he was led aboard, stronger this time. Kane pushed it down with practiced discipline. There would be time to feed later, once he was inside Nexus. After all, prisons were just warehouses of sustenance, if you knew how to be subtle about it. And subtlety was something he perfected over a very, very long life. The transport's engines flared, pushing them up through New Aurora's atmosphere. Behind them, the twin moons cast long shadows across the glittering spires, shadows that would soon be filled with blood. Blood and steel. The Nexus prison transport hummed through hyperspace, its reinforced hull designed to contain the most dangerous prisoners in the Arcturus Empire. In the high-security holding cell, Commander Kane sat motionless, his centuries of experience letting him maintain perfect stillness in a way no human could manage. The neural dampeners buzzed against his skull, a minor irritation that he pretended affected him far more than it actually did. Through the cell's energy barrier, he observed the guard rotation patterns, noting every detail. The Arcturian troops moved with precision, but there was an undercurrent of tension in their movements. They were afraid, not of him specifically, but of something. The Empire's finest soldiers didn't spook easily. "Prisoner bioskin in progress," announced the ship's AI. Kane felt the familiar tingle of scanning beams. He carefully modulated his biological functions to appear human, a trick that had taken decades to perfect. The Empire's technology was advanced, but it was calibrated to detect known species, and his kind had stayed hidden for millennia. A new figure approached his cell, Intelligence Officer Naira Voss. She'd been watching him since his capture, her silver eyes missing nothing. Unlike her Arcturian colleagues, she was selenary, a species known for their emphatic abilities. She was dangerous. "Commander Kane," she said, her voice carrying the musical lilt common to her species, "I hope you're finding your accommodations adequate." Kane met her gaze, carefully maintaining his mental barriers. "The service could be better, and your chef should be court-martialed." His slight smile played across her luminescent features. "You haven't touched your food. Lost my appetite when your people started bombing civilian sectors." "Interesting," Voss said, taking a step closer to the barrier. "Your vital signs suggest you haven't eaten in days, yet you show no signs of weakness. Most humans would be deteriorating by now." Kane allowed a flash of genuine amusement to surface. She was good. Too good. "Maybe your bioscanners need calibration." "Maybe." Her antennae twitched slightly, a tell that she was probing deeper with her emphatic abilities. "Or maybe you're not what you appear to be, Commander." The hunger chose that moment to surge, a crimson tide that threatened to overwhelm his careful control. Kane could hear the blood pumping through her veins, smell the unique chemistry of her alien circulation. It would be so easy to. He shut down that line of thought immediately. "We all have our secrets, Officer Voss, even your precious Empire." "The artifact," she said quietly. "What do you know about it?" "Only what your captain was kind enough to reveal during my capture." Kane leaned forward, letting her see the genuine curiosity in his eyes. "Though I admit I'm intrigued. What could be so important that it would make Imperial archaeologists choose death over revelation?" Voss's expression flickered. "You're trying to manipulate me, quite skillfully, I might add. Is it working?" "No, but it is revealing." She gestured, and a holoscreen materialized between them. These are sensor readings from your last 3 engagements with Imperial forces. In each case, you demonstrated capabilities beyond human norm. Strength, speed, tactical awareness, all enhanced, but inconsistently so, as if you were holding back. Kane kept his expression neutral, but internally he cursed. She was piecing it together faster than he'd anticipated. Many resistance fighters have military-grade augmentations. True, but their patterns are predictable. Yours. She magnified one section of data. Yours suggests something else entirely. Something older. Tell me, Commander, how long have you been fighting the Empire? Since the beginning, he said truthfully. The resistance movement began 30 years ago. Kane smiled. Did it? A proximity alarm blared through the ship. Voss's antennae stiffened as she received information through her neural link. We're being pursued. 3 unregistered vessels, closing fast. She fixed Kane with a penetrating stare. Your people? The Resistance doesn't have ships that could catch a Nexus transport. Again, true. The vessels pursuing them belong to someone, or something, else entirely. The ship shuddered as the first shots struck their shields. Kane felt the shift in gravity as emergency protocols engage. Perfect timing. The hunger was becoming harder to control, and Officer Voss was getting dangerously close to the truth. All security personnel to battle stations, the ship's AI announced. Prisoner containment protocols at maximum. Voss hesitated, clearly torn between staying to continue her interrogation and responding to the threat. This isn't over, Commander. No, Kane agreed softly as she hurried away. It's only beginning. Once alone, he closed his eyes and extended his senses. Through the hull, through the void of space itself, he could feel them, the hunters. His own kind had finally made their move, though whether they were here to help or hinder his mission remained to be seen. The artifact's discovery had drawn the attention of powers far older than the Arcturus Empire. The ship rocked with another impact. In the distance, Kane heard the distinctive sound of hull breach warnings. Soon, the corridors would be chaos as the crew fought boarders. In the confusion, it would be easy to feed, to regain his full strength, but that would mean revealing his true nature too soon. Everything hinged on reaching Nexus itself. The artifact had been moved there. He was certain of it, and if the Empire's researchers managed to unlock its secrets before he could intervene, the consequences would reshape the galaxy. Some doors, Kane knew, were meant to stay closed. Some hungers were better left unfed. The battle above continued to rage as the transport hurtled through hyperspace. In his cell, Commander Kane waited with inhuman patience, counting down the moments until chaos would provide opportunity. The Empire thought they had captured a resistance fighter. Soon they would learn that they had invited something far more dangerous aboard, something that had been old when their ancestors were still learning to make fire. The hunger pulsed in time with his ancient heart. Soon, very soon, the awakening. The Nexus prison transport's emergency lights bathed the corridors in crimson as boarders wreaked havoc throughout the ship. Commander Kane listened to the distant sounds of combat, the hunger within him rising at the scent of spilled blood, both human and alien. The neural dampeners hummed against his skull, now more irritating than ever as his true nature strained to break free. An explosion rocked the prisoner containment section. Through the smoke, Kane saw Imperial troops retreating, firing desperately at shadows. The attacking force moved with inhuman grace, their movements familiar to him. Vampires. But not the organized hunters he'd sensed earlier. These were rogues, drawn by the artifact's power like moths to flame. Containment breach in sectors 7 through 12. The ship's AI announced, its usual calm voice edged with static. All security personnel implement Protocol Omega. Repeat, implement Protocol Omega. Kane's cell barrier flickered as emergency power rerouted through the ship's systems. He could break free now, but timing was crucial. The Empire needed to see him as an ally against a greater threat, not another enemy to be destroyed. Everything hinged on reaching Nexus itself. Intelligence Officer Voss appeared through the smoke, her silver eyes wide but determined. Blood trickled from a cut on her forehead, the scent almost overwhelming. 2 Arcturian guards flanked her, their armor scarred from combat. "The ship is lost," she said without preamble, deactivating his cell barrier. "Whatever these things are, they're tearing through our best defenses like paper. You've seen them before, haven't you?" Kane stood slowly, making no threatening moves. "Yes." "Then help us. Help us, and I'll ensure your cooperation is remembered when." The wall exploded inward. One of the Arcturian guards vanished into the darkness with a scream. The other opened fire, energy bolts illuminating a nightmarish figure, one of the rogues, twisted by centuries of uncontrolled feeding. Its flesh was pale as death, eyes burning with feral hunger. "Brother," it rasped at Kane, ignoring the weapon's fire. "Why do you hide your nature? Join us. The artifact calls." Kane moved. To Voss and the remaining guard, he seemed to blur, crossing the space between them and the rogue vampire in an instant. His carefully maintained facade of humanity fell away as he slammed the creature into the wall, his own eyes now glowing with ancient power. "You shame our kind," Kane snarled, fangs extended. The rogue's only response was a savage laugh cut short as Kane drove his hand into its chest, ripping out its withered heart. The creature crumbled to ash, its final expression one of surprised recognition. Kane turned to face Voss, knowing his true nature was now fully revealed. The Selenary intelligence officer had her sidearm trained on him, her empathic antennae rigid with shock. The remaining Arcturian guard was backing away, weapon switching between Kane and the corridor. "What are you?" Voss demanded. "Something far older than your empire," Kane replied, wiping black blood from his hand. "And right now, possibly your only chance of survival. The artifact your people found. It's drawing them here, drawing us all here, and if we don't reach Nexus before they do, the consequences will be unfortunate." Another explosion rocked the ship. Emergency klaxons blared as the AI announced, "Hull breach on decks 3 through 5. Life support failing in affected sectors. All personnel proceed to emergency." The announcement cut off in a burst of static. "Why should we trust you?" Voss asked, though Kane noticed she was already lowering her weapon. "Because unlike them," he gestured at the ashes of the rogue, "I still remember what it means to be civilized. The artifact isn't just dangerous to your empire, it's dangerous to everyone, including my kind. That's why I let myself be captured. That's why I need to reach Nexus." The ship lurched violently. Through the hull breach, Kane could sense more vampires approaching. Not just rogues now, but hunters too. Ancient politics were playing out against the backdrop of Imperial space, and this transport had become their battlefield. "Officer Voss," the Arcturian guard interrupted, "emergency pods are launching. We need to evacuate." Voss's silver eyes locked with Kane's. He felt her emphatic abilities probe his mind and allowed it, letting her sense the truth of his words, if not the full extent of his plans. "You're still hiding something," she said finally. "Always, but right now we have a common enemy and a common goal. The rogues can't be allowed to reach Nexus, and your empire's researchers can't be allowed to unlock the artifact's power. Some knowledge comes at too high a price." The ship's gravity generators failed, sending debris floating through the corridors. In the distance, Kane heard more screams. His kind were getting closer. The hunger pulsed within him, stronger now that he'd dropped his human pretense. "We have a secure shuttle in Hangar 3, Voss decided. "If we can reach it." "We can't," Kane interrupted, his enhanced senses detecting movement above them. "They're in the ventilation systems, but I know another way." He turned to the Arcturian guard. "Your armor, it's equipped with an emergency thruster pack." The guard nodded nervously. "Good, because we're about to do something incredibly stupid." Kane moved to the hull breach, calculating trajectories. The main engines are still running. If we time this right, we can use their exhaust trail as a hyperspace wake. It'll get us to Nexus faster than any pursuit could follow. That's suicide, the guard protested. Only for humans. Kane smiled, his fangs glinting in the emergency lights. Fortunately, I'm not human. And you too. You're about to have a very interesting story to tell your grandchildren. Assuming we survive. More vampires were closing in. Kane could feel their presence like a weight in his mind. The artifact's pull was affecting them all, driving the rogues into a feeding frenzy and drawing the hunters into Imperial space. Centuries of careful hiding were unraveling because the Empire couldn't resist probing the darkness between stars. Time to choose, Officer Voss, Kane said as the ship's structure groaned around them. Trust the monster you know, or take your chances with the ones currently tearing your ship apart. Voss looked at the ashes of the rogue vampire, then at the darkness filling the corridors. Finally, she met Kane's inhuman gaze and nodded. I must be insane, she muttered, checking her weapon's charge. But I want answers, and I can't get them from a corpse. What's the plan? Kane's smile widened. How much do you know about vampire physiology and zero gravity? Breaking chains. Space was utterly silent as Kane, Voss, and the Arcturian guard, who had finally introduced himself as Sergeant Terex, hurtled through the hyperspace wake of the dying transport. Kane's enhanced body protected him from the vacuum, while his strength kept the two Imperial officers secure. The transport's engine trail blazed ahead of them like a road of blue fire, their only path to survival. 3 minutes of oxygen remaining. Voss's voice crackled through their emergency comms. Her silver eyes were wide behind her pressure mask, but she remained surprisingly calm for someone putting her life in the hands of a vampire. Kane adjusted their trajectory, using the guard's thruster pack with precise control. The hunger was a constant presence now, made worse by the strain of protecting his companions from the violent forces buffeting them. He could smell their blood even through their suits, a temptation he forced himself to ignore. There, Terex called out, pointing ahead. Through the swirling energies of hyperspace, a massive shape was materializing. Nexus Prison. The facility was a technological marvel, a sprawling complex built into an artificial planetoid. Its dark surface was studded with weapon emplacements and sensor arrays, many of which were now targeting the unexpected arrivals. They're charging weapons, Voss reported, her antennae twitching within her helmet. If they fire, they won't, Kane assured her, even as he felt the facility's targeting systems lock onto them. Watch. He released his hold on Terex's arm just long enough to reach into a hidden compartment in his prisoner jumpsuit. The emergency transponder he activated sent out a signal that made the prison's defense grid hesitate just long enough. Imperial override codes, Voss realized. From before your capture, you planned this. I plan everything, Kane replied as emergency tractor beams locked onto their group. Though I admit, the vampire attack was an unwelcome complication. They were pulled into a receiving bay, artificial gravity and atmosphere reasserting themselves as the force field sealed behind them. Kane released his companions, his muscles aching from the prolonged strain. He needed to feed soon, but there were more pressing concerns. Armed guards surrounded them instantly, weapons trained on Kane. Through the transparent walls of the bay, he could see the transport they'd escaped from finally succumb to its damage, breaking apart in a silent explosion. Any pursuing vampires would have been scattered, but not for long. They'd find other ways to reach Nexus. Stand down, Voss commanded the guards, her tone carrying the full authority of Imperial intelligence. The prisoner just saved our lives, and we have a much bigger problem coming. Ma'am, one of the guards protested. Regulations state. Your regulations don't account for vampire attacks. Terex interrupted, his own authority as a sergeant adding weight to Voss's orders. This facility is about to become a battlefield unless we act quickly. Kane remained still, appearing unthreatening despite the hunger raging within him. Your superior officers, where are they? In the command center, Voss answered after a moment's hesitation. along with the research team working on the artifact. Then that's where we need to be. Kane's enhanced senses were already mapping the facility, noting patrol patterns and security measures. How much do your commanders know about what was found on Proxima B? Only what the surviving researchers told them before. Voss trailed off, her antennae drooping slightly. The artifact affects minds somehow. The longer someone studies it, the more obsessed they become. Eventually, they either go mad or take their own lives. Kane finished. Yes, it has that effect on humans, and on vampires who aren't prepared for its influence. The rogues attacking your transport. They were drawn by its power, but they don't understand what they're dealing with. Neither does your empire. The facility's alerts began blaring before anyone could respond. Kane tensed, sensing familiar presences approaching. They're here already, faster than I expected. More vampires, Terex asked, checking his weapons charge. Hunters, Kane corrected. The ones who enforce our laws. They'd been tracking me, waiting to see if I'd lead them to the artifact. And now, he smiled grimly. Now things get interesting. Through the bay windows, sleek ships were emerging from hyperspace, vessels of clearly alien design, but with an organic quality that spoke of ancient technology. The hunters had arrived in force. We need to move, Kane insisted. Get me to the artifact before either the hunters or the rogues breach this facility. There's still a chance to contain this situation, but only if we act now. Voss studied him with her emphatic abilities. You're still hiding something. Something about the artifact's true nature. Yes, Kane admitted. Because if I told you everything, you wouldn't believe me. Some truths have to be seen to be understood. And some secrets. He gestured at the approaching hunter ships. Some secrets are kept for a reason. The facility shuddered as the first attack struck its shields. Alarms blared through every corridor as Nexus's defenses activated. They were out of time. Make your choice, Officer Voss, Kane said quietly. Trust me enough to reach the artifact, or watch as 3 different factions tear this prison apart trying to claim it. Voss exchanged looks with Terex, some unspoken communication passing between them. Finally, she turned to the facility guards. Escort us to the command center. Maximum security protocols. And get me a direct line to the research team. They need to know what's coming. As they moved deeper into Nexus, Kane felt the artifact's presence growing stronger. Its pull was subtle but insistent, like a song just below the threshold of hearing. The hunger within him responded to its call, reminding him that he was walking a dangerous line between control and chaos. The Empire had no idea what they'd uncovered on Proxima B, but they were about to find out. And the revelation would shake the foundations of everything they thought they knew about humanity's place in the galaxy. Above them, hunter ships engaged in battle with the facility's defenses, while rogue vampires searched for ways to breach the hull. At the heart of Nexus, an artifact older than civilization itself waited in the darkness, its power calling to all who could hear its siren song. The real war was about to begin. Ancient powers. Deep within Nexus Prison's most secure sector, Kane stood before a sealed vault door as alarms blared throughout the facility. The artifact's call was almost overwhelming now, a psychic pressure that made the hunger within him surge. Beside him, Voss and Terex kept their weapons ready as facility guards established a defensive perimeter. Multiple hull breaches detected. The prison's AI announced. Unknown entities have penetrated sectors 7, 12, and 15. Security teams are no longer responding in affected areas. The rogues are inside, Kane said quietly, and the hunters won't be far behind. How many researchers are still studying the artifact? 3, Voss answered, her antennae twitching with anxiety. The only ones who haven't succumbed to its influence. They're inside with the facility commander. Kane nodded. Open it. The vault door's massive locks disengaged with a series of thunderous clanks. As it swung open, Kane felt the artifact's power wash over him like a tide. The hunger responded, but he was ready for it. 3 centuries of preparation had led to this moment. The research chamber was a stark white room filled with scanning equipment and monitoring devices. In the center, suspended in a containment field, floated what appeared to be an ancient stone tablet covered in writings that seemed to shift and change as they watched. The 3 researchers barely acknowledged their arrival, their attention fixed on the artifact with an intensity that bordered on mania. The facility commander, a stern-looking Arcturian, moved to intercept them. "Officer Voss," he began, "explain why you've brought a prisoner." "Because he's the only one who knows what we're really dealing with," Voss interrupted. "Commander, we have multiple vampire forces attacking this facility. They're here for the artifact." "Vampires." The commander laughed, though there was an edge of hysteria to it. "Officer Voss, I think the stress off." His words cut off as Kane moved, faster than any human could track, to catch a rogue vampire that had dropped from a ventilation duct. The creatures were getting bolder, more desperate as they got closer to their goal. Kane's fangs extended as he drove the rogue into the floor with enough force to crack the reinforced material. "Still think she's hallucinating?" Kane asked mildly, twisting until the rogue's neck snapped. The body crumbled to ash, drawing shocked gasps from the researchers. "The tablet," one of them spoke up, her voice trembling. It shows us things. History. Power. But it's more than that. It's like it's alive somehow." "Not alive," Kane corrected, approaching the containment field. "Awake. What you found isn't just a record or a weapon. It's a key to something that should stay locked away." Through the windows, they could see hunter ships engaging the prison's defense platforms in spectacular combat. More alarms blared as additional hull breaches were reported. Time was running out. "The writings," another researcher said, "they're in no known language, but somehow we can understand them. They speak of a great darkness, sealed away eons ago. A power that could reshape reality itself." "Yes," Kane's eyes fixed on the shifting text. "My kind weren't born, you see. We were created. Weapons in a war so ancient your empire wouldn't believe it if I told you. The ones you call vampires. We're not a species or a mutation. We're living locks, created to keep that darkness contained." Voss's silver eyes widened. "The hunger is our purpose," Kane finished. "The need to feed isn't a weakness or a curse. It's a duty. Every vampire is a seal, burning energy to maintain the barriers that keep that ancient darkness at bay. But some of us forgot, gave in to the hunger completely, becoming the rogues you've seen. Others, like the hunters, became obsessed with maintaining order through force." "And you?" Terex asked. "I remembered. I kept the old knowledge when others forgot. Watched as humanity reached for the stars, knowing that someday they'd find something they shouldn't. This artifact isn't just a tablet. It's a map to the source of our power, and to the darkness we were created to contain." The facility rocked with another impact. Through the walls, they could hear fighting getting closer. The rogues were carving their way through Nexus's defenders, driven mad by the artifact's call. "The hunters want to destroy it," Kane continued. "The rogues want to use it to free themselves from their duty. Both would be catastrophic. The barriers need to be maintained, but they also need to be understood. Humanity's expansion into space has changed things. The old ways aren't enough anymore." "What are you suggesting?" the facility commander demanded. Kane smiled, and for the first time, there was genuine warmth in it. "A partnership. Your empire has the resources and technology to help maintain the barriers properly. My kind has the knowledge and power to show you how. Together, we cooled." The ceiling exploded. Hunter vampires dropped into the room, their ancient weapons ready. At the same moment, rogues burst through the walls, their twisted forms horrifying in the stark light. The facility's defenders opened fire as chaos erupted. "The artifact must be destroyed," one of the hunters roared. "Its power will free us all." A rogue screamed in return. Kane moved to stand between them and the tablet, his own power fully unleashed. Neither of you understands. The time for hiding is over. The time for mindless duty is over. The darkness stirs, and we need to evolve if we're going to continue containing it. Traitor, the hunters accused. Coward, the rogues snarled. No, Kane's voice carried the weight of centuries. Pragmatist. The battle that followed was beyond human comprehension. Kane moved like living shadow, centuries of experience making him more than a match for both hunters and rogues. Voss and Terex coordinated the facility's defenders with remarkable efficiency, their trust in Kane now complete. In the end, it was Voss's empathic abilities that made the difference. As Kane fought, she broadcast the truth of his words to all present, the sincerity of his vision, the wisdom of his plan. One by one, the hunters lowered their weapons. The rogues, too far gone to be reasoned with, were dispatched. Hours later, as Imperial reinforcements secured the facility, Kane stood with Voss and Terex, watching as new containment protocols were established. The Empire won't easily accept this, Voss noted. Neither will most of my kind, Kane agreed. But they don't have to like it. They just have to understand it's necessary. The galaxy is changing. We have to change with it. And the darkness? Terex asked. What if it breaks free despite everything? Kane's expression turned grim. Then humanity will learn why vampires were created to be so powerful. But for now, he turned to Voss. I believe we have a partnership to negotiate. The artifact pulsed softly in its containment field, its secrets now serving as the foundation for a new chapter in both human and vampire history. The hunger would remain, but its purpose was clear. Not a curse, but a duty. Not a weakness, but a reminder of the price of keeping reality safe from what lurked in the spaces between stars. The real work was just beginning.